It's time now for the Casey Ingram Show on WSTU. The opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not necessarily those of WSTU. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. It's time to call in with your questions and comments at 220-9788, 220-WSTU. And now, here's Casey Ingram.
Well, good morning. It's another wonderful Wednesday here in Stewart. The sun is out, and I got my favorite repeat guest here in the studio. We have Eric Miller from Talk About Martin, which I enjoy contributing to. It's such a great site, and Eric's like, contribute more.
Let's go. It's great. We're having fun. Casey, the thing's growing. We have over 5,000 unique Facebook visitors that come and look at everything that we put together out there, and it drives them right to the where we have a lot of different contributors, which again, we have a new one coming up. His name is Dennis Martin. Dennis worked with a lot of the alphabet agencies over the years, including the State Department, doing things in other socialist countries, and has a real good understanding of how socialism works. And he's going to start tying some of that experience together with things that we're seeing throughout Martin County in our governmental systems and how we got to where we are. So he's up.
That sounds very interesting. I'm definitely going to be following him.
Dennis, he can pen an article and make you think twice about what you thought you knew.
Good stuff.
He's good. Yeah.
Good stuff. Really good. If you go to Talk About Martin, you're going to see a lot of different contributors like that on there. And Eric's always looking for more contributors because, the more information we have out there, the better for everybody.
Amen to that.
You got it. And talking about information, the Martin County Property Appraisers, I put it on my Facebook page, but this real estate has just been booming here this last year, and they've redone the market values in the county, and market values have increased by more than $2 billion. And I think Iggy's got a graphic where they can show the different municipalities and how much they've increased, with the exception of one municipality.
Yeah, in town.
Indiantown.
Well, on that topic and being that we do talk about Martin, could go down the rabbit hole with Indiantown on that one, but they have enough other problems. I'm wondering, the last time I looked at the county commission, there was a $385 million approved but unfunded project list that they had established along the way. And I would hope that at least the county, now, if they're going to be receiving more in ad valorem, the property tax, and keep your budget the same.
Amen.
If you have $385+ million of approved but unfunded projects, maybe this is a time to get some of those things you promised the people were going to get done off of the table and bring them forward. But I'm sure that they're taking a look at all of that. It'll be interesting to see how it turns out.
It will be very interesting. So it was a fascinating article that they released, and I thought, wow, that's a huge increase for us. And you're right. I hope that they use the extra funds prudently. So we'll be watching
that, or don't take the extra funds. Let us keep them.
I know it. Give us a break.
I'm telling you.
We've been raising taxes. It's time to go back. So we'll see what happens. But that's all good news. And you actually have some more good news out of it.
We do have some good news. I have to tell you, the pandemic the past year and a half has taken its toll on nonprofits. I work with the Indiantown Veterans Association, and it's hard to have membership meetings and get-togethers when everyone's telling you to stay away from each other. And the YMCA in Indiantown is no different. They went through some pretty tough times. They had to shut down a lot of what they do in there. Their gym, they lost revenue. They lost people coming in. They lost volunteers, and the property reflected the effort that people had made to, because it was no longer able to be put forward during this pandemic. Good 30+ volunteers this last Saturday, organized by Tony Z. He drove by and looked at it and said, I bet we can get enough people together to come out here and get this thing cleaned up. And it was something. We worked from 7 a.m. until noon, 1 o'clock that day as a main group. And we were able to put mulch in all the flower beds. We were able to get things cleaned up, get the sidewalks edged, get the trees trimmed. David Powers walked around with a chainsaw for 4 hours cutting low-hanging oak limbs.
Oh, wow.
I'll bet he went back and got in the hot tub that night. He had to be sore. But anyway, it was good news. It looks great. And there's going to be ongoing effort out there, and the Y's getting ready to crank back up. Plus, there's also discussion of the potential of a benefactor to renovate the pool.
Oh, that'd be huge.
And we'll keep our ear to the ground on this one. Can't divulge too much at this point, but we're hoping to see that come to fruition, and it'll be a good thing if it does.
That's exciting, Eric. It's really great to see the community come together and make good things happen.
And it was great to see. It's a we the people moment. Nobody had to get a grant from the government for it with back end obligations and look at this and vote on that. We all just showed up with shovels and rakes and wheelbarrows and saws and got the job done.
And it looks fabulous now.
It looks fantastic now. Fantastic.
So that's a great job. I tell you what. So I wish I had a picture up right now while we were talking about it.
Well, and in Indian, take back to Indiantown again on this. You look at the leadership in Indiantown governmentally, and it kind of points towards why we say it's got to be a we the people effort.
Yeah.
It really has to get back to we the people, because there's a few that are looking to the government to be the answer for everything, and that's a very short-sighted type of American view. And we actually have one, out in the open, self-declared Democratic Socialist, Anthony Dowling, Mr. Yeo, that is he's way out front on this. He doesn't understand why we would celebrate that pesky little holiday called July 4th.
I mean, our Independence Day.
So, and I figured, instead of me telling you what Anthony said, I brought a clip, and I thought it would be much better to let Anthony kind of tell you in his own words what he thinks about it. So this is straight from Anthony's mouth.
Ray, if you could roll that clip.
Mr. Anthony D. Dowling. Good evening. I'm going to be very, very quick because I know we have quite a bit of things to discuss. Thank you so much for Vice Mayor for being the guest speaker at the second annual Juneteenth celebration that was held this past weekend. I wanted to also give a huge shout out to Gibbs Thomas for attending, the vendors, the Martin County Sheriff's Office, and of course the public for attending as we learn about Juneteenth. And all that it encompasses. It's interesting that we celebrate July 4th. When that document was signed, folks that looked like me were still enslaved. And so as we celebrate Juneteenth here in the village of Indiantown and continue to celebrate it, when we are all free, that is when, in my humble opinion, that we should celebrate the freedom for all Americans, not just a particular group of people. So thank you so much again, Madam Vice, for speaking and all that participated.
Eric,
there are just so many things to discuss on that.
There are. Our Independence Day, the birth date of our nation.
I'm laughing because 5 years ago, it would have been absurd to sit here and tell people that you were going to have elected officials saying things like this in the United States of America. And here it is. And what really gets me about him is that he's thanking the vice mayor for being the guest speaker at his Juneteenth celebration that he had. And she kind of looks up from the microphone like, okay, well, I'd like to say you're welcome. And he doesn't even give her a second thought and just keeps in his conceit and rambling and keeps on going through this whole thing. He's being driven by a group that's called the Young Elected Officials. It's a YEO group. People like Andrew Gilliam, Elian Omar, the squad, Rashid Tlaib. These people out of D.C. are the mentors for this group, and the money behind it comes from the normal Democratic Socialist funding places, Tides Foundation and places up from there. We've done our homework on it. So, Anthony is Anthony, but it goes even deeper than that. I have to say, his lack of respect for the first mayor of Indiantown, for Miss Gibbs Thomas, where the Honorable Vice Mayor Jackie Clark, Councilwoman Jackie Clark, and then it's all military. Hey, Gibbs Thomas over here. I don't know if he does this intentionally. I think it's just it's personality trait that comes out in him when he's actually discussing. He is so full of himself. But anyway, we're going to do our best to make sure we keep an eye on him, because elections are coming up for him. They're also coming up for Miss Jackie. And again, we're fighting some things in Indiantown that we shouldn't have to be fighting. And a lot of it seems to stem from racial types of ideologies.
Right.
Jackie's heavily influenced by the NAACP, the ACLU, and other places like that. But I brought a clip along of Jackie talking about fire rescue during the fire rescue negotiations, about how they were owed things. And I think that if you listen to Ms. Clark here, this kind of demonstrates where her ideologies and governmental kinds of ideas come from.
All right,
So
Ray.
my stands on the EMS and the fire rescue. We're going to do some history here. So when the incorporators came and wanted to get incorporated, I had no problem helping them out. But for some reason, it seemed like some of them, I'm not saying all of them, done turned their back on the village all of a sudden. EMS rescue was part of the deal when we became incorporated. So Susan, she doing her job. She was not for incorporation. I'm speaking to those who were for incorporation. So all the residents who are insisting on that we keep Martin County Fire Rescue EMS, just like you email us, just like you protesting out there, I need you to use your energy and start sending the county commissioners letters and tell them to give the village a contract for the services. Because trust me, it's some money on the table. And for the county commissioners, if they're older than we are, then we probably shouldn't have to got incorporated if you all would have been doing your job. For any town to be in the state it is and we had to get incorporated, well, for y'all to have all the experience, it just defunks me. But no hard feelings with nobody. To my brother Ed Campbell, much is given, much is required. So I think the county is in your court. Ms. Taryn Prisoner, you was on public record. You said that what you had to offer us, so y'all get a contract together and bring it to the village. Let's make it a win-win situation, and this fire rescue don't have to go nowhere. But I know that the county can do something. They need to do something. They owe us.
Dude, they owe us.
They owe us.
Yeah. See, that kind of sums up the mentality.
It really does sum it up. And we've talked about the fire rescue so much over the last couple months, and knowing how it culminated, finally, the county did end up giving some money over a period of 5 years, I believe it is,
right,
to Indiantown. But that was out of the generosity of the county. It's not.
It was an olive branch.
That's
right. It was an olive branch.
It was an olive branch.
And if you remember back when Howard Brown, the village manager, Mr. Opalaka, went to and Janet, the sitting mayor right now, went to the county commission meeting uninvited before they were to discuss this. And during public comment, Janet rambled on for an extra 3 to 4 minutes after the Stacey Hetherington, the chairman, had said, "Ma'am, you are over your 3 minutes in public speaking."
I remember.
But we put together a kind of Janet's own words that describe where she comes from in terms of her ideas on things that are going on as well, and they're racially.
It's stirring the racial pot.
The three of them are stirring the racial pot so hard in that town that you're against someone if you're against an idea that's bad, and it's getting to a point where we need to get Jackie and Anthony this next election out of office and get some people in Indiantown, because what they're doing out there really does affect Martin County, and it's going to affect it in a bigger way in the time.
Uniters, not dividers.
Exactly.
And you do have another clip here. And if you could go ahead and play that last clip, Ray.
Yeah, this is.
I just
Janet
wanted
Hernandez.
to express the attack on our village manager is an attack on the council. Unfortunately, we have a huge minority population. When I say minority, I'm talking about blacks and brown. And probably one of the only reasons why we didn't really get resources out here in Indiantown was because this population is working hard, working class, don't have time to go to the county and ask, and doesn't know how to ask or demand for roads to be fixed, parks to be fixed. One of the things that irritates me is when people say, I love Indiantown. It hasn't been an easy process. It's always seems that, it's the division of color, because this community has always been taken advantage of. Before this, I didn't know that there was a difference of color. Unfortunately, I can tell you, since my last election, last year, I can tell you, it really does matter. Being Hispanic, being black hair, makes a difference.
You know, Eric, one thing that she said in there that really stands out, and they may not realize it. She said, before I was elected, didn't realize there was any, racial bias going on. But since her election, she notices there's racism going on. What's the change? What's the catalyst? I think they need to look inward a little bit at the council, because you're from Indiantown. You can speak to pre-council,
okay, hang on.
post-council.
I'll get lambasted if I say I am from Indiantown. I have made sure with neighbors of mine that we were able to get our area called Little Ranch Estates out of the initial boundary. So technically, I'm not in the village. I'm just bounded by them on three sides.
Okay.
But there's people that live in Clementsville and in Springhaven and other places that consider themselves to be part of Indiantown as well. So greater Indiantown, yeah.
Right.
But,
before the council, though, was racism running rampant there?
No.
But now it seems to be coming up in most every conversation.
Everywhere you turn. I mean, Anthony Dowling hosted a Black Lives Matter rally, 2 of them in Indiantown. Okay. He aligns himself with these Marxist socialist types of organizations. And then we'll sit there and tell you why you're wrong for being white, which, when I heard him talk about the Juneteenth, the thing that really aggravates me is his exclusion of other certain parts of history that seem to be inconvenient for him. Like back in the year 1819, the U.S. actually sent 4 naval vessels to the coast of Africa to ensure that no other country were bringing humans for the purpose of slavery out of Africa through their vessels. And at that time, America was 2% of the slave trade, which actually was established prior to the United States of America being here. It was actually started by a black man back in 1669, I believe, somewhere back in that area.
Okay.
Yeah, he brought a black Englishman brought an indentured servant with him, and he argued with the court back in the 1600s while on soil that was to become the Americas, that the man wasn't working hard enough, so that he just needed to own him because he was going to get all of everything that the indentured servant at that time gave him. So the first slave in America was actually, but we exclude these types of things. And we had war vessels there from 1819 up until 4 years before this one interruption that we had. A small little matter called the United States Civil War, where we had black and white men fighting to free black men, but those types of things seem to get forgotten in his view of American history. He's rewriting through omission, and a lot of this is happening not only in the village, but Anthony is under 35 years old. This is a generation of kids that have been retaught history in a way that they've been taught something through the omission of
facts.
Other portions and the facts.
Right.
It's sad and it's scary, but he actually believes these things. I really truly believe that, because I don't see enough people out there in Indiantown with this mentality that he's putting forward, and this racial bias that's being used. Every time you turn around, failures are being, given excuse of racism. And we have to look at the outcomes of what they've been doing. And there aren't many.
What kind of feedback are you getting around Indiantown? I know that you've put a lot of this information out on Talk About Martin. If you go to the website there, and you have all these videos on there as well. So, it's a great place for people to come and talk and communicate.
Yeah, we encourage it, even if it's just through our Facebook group. We have some lively conversations on our Facebook page. I was called the other day, just some guy with a computer. You're a nobody. Everybody thinks you're a kook. You're just some guy with a computer. Well, yeah, I'm a guy with the computer, but hey, look, we have a lot of people that are following what we're doing, that participate in the discussion, that know us. And when we show up somewhere, we bring people with us.
Right.
Okay. And it's not an organized type of thing, but we're there where the reality is happening most of the time. And people, like we've said before, when one person stands, somebody else will stand alongside them. And when you get 2 standing, it's easier to get 4, and the numbers grow. So it's about idea and truth and light, and not politics and divisiveness and agendas.
Well, they can only hope you're a guy with just a computer, because this guy with a computer is doing a lot to spread the word and to get people involved, to educate people.
Yeah.
That's what it's about, because without you, there would have been far less voice, if any voice, about what was happening, for example, with the fire department.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you.
It's that guy with the computer has grown tremendously because it's more than one guy now.
It is. It's a bunch of people. It really is. And we
is.
have people that follow. And I hate to use the word followers, but that's what Facebook calls them. But they subscribe to either our YouTube channel or to the talkaboutmartin.com site, or they will follow us on Facebook. And it's nice to know that people are actually looking at what we're doing and listening. They don't always agree with us on everything, but it opens up an opportunity for dialogue. And we have people that come to us and say, I wasn't going to say anything, but you should know. And sometimes when you can take that ball forward for somebody else and help, or you do things like using the ability to raise money for the children of a mother in an Indian town that was slain. For Pastor Sandy Davis, who lost her house and is trying to raise funds to get into a trailer temporarily until she can find permanent housing. I mean, there's a lot, the YMCA, there's a lot of things in Indian Town that make Indian Town what it is, and it's unique. There's something unique and sacred about that area out there because it's been such a small, close-knit village for so long, and it's tough to see it being ripped apart.
It is. And I think that's the one message that was given to me when I was out there talking with many of your residents in the park is, it is a very close-knit community, and the change is not the type of changes that are happening are not what we're looking for.
It'll abolish all of this within a very short period of time because they're putting in homes that are going to be $300,000 to $500,000, and it's not the same demographic. And before you know it, those people are going to outnumber people to vote, and things are going to change even faster.
It'll change. Diane Phillips Lewis, appreciate that you're tuning in. She said, Eric is a wonderful person. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Diane.
I know you have a lot of fans that are out there and appreciate all the work that you do. We're going to be going to break here in just a couple of minutes, but give us a quick update on TSC. We talked about that last time when you were in the
Tractor
studio.
Supply? It'd be nice
site.
to know. They got everything that they said they had to do done and got it pushed through. Said they were going to bring an archaeologist out there to look around. And looking at it, there were tractor marks and trail marks dug through where it should have been. So we're never really going to know on that. The thing with that is, though, it's one of 35 acres more big box type of retail complex that they're looking at putting in on that corner. And I wish I could wake Indianwood up because I don't think most people in Indianwood really realize what's going to be there in the next 3 to 5 years if things continue. Joe Biden, thank you so much. Gas at $3.15, $3.19 coming in. So I got an idea the boom in Indiantown may be slowing down
already.
Yeah.
So, and that's exactly right. And you get expenses going up, it will. So to be honest with you, right?
Yeah, just to be honest with you.
So, but there's a lot more updates that we're going to be covering here at the second half of the hour. I want to let everybody know that next week's show, I'm going to have Senator Gail Harrell in the studio and also Marcia Powers. Marcia is CEO of the Early Learning Coalition, Okeechobee and Indian River County, and Senator Harrell has championed a lot of legislation to help kids and to help it'll help Marcia's organization. So we're going to talk about some of that legislation next week, and that'll be next Wednesday. So we will be right back here after the break. Take a short one, and Eric, we got so much more to talk about. All right, we'll be right back. And we're back. I'm in the studio with Eric Miller from Talk About Martin. You can visit the website, talkaboutmartin.com. You can also follow them on Facebook. And Talk About Martin is just that. We talk about everything that's really impacting Martin County. You have a lot of different contributors. Tell us again about your latest one, because I just can't wait to hear what
Dennis Martin.
Dennis
was with the alphabet soup kind of places in the federal government, the 3-letter agencies. He did some work for the State Department and found himself in certain socialist and communist countries quite frequently, working to undermine the communist and socialist states.
He's an important voice, because right now that's what's happening here in America is we're trying to scream what socialism is all about.
Yep.
And, so we need somebody that has firsthand experience to say, wake up.
Yeah, well, he has a really
go down
unique
that path.
Yeah, he has a really unique ability to do that too, because he can tie it back into things that are actually happening in your own local government. So we're going to be able to take a big dark, evil thing that's actually a storm cloud on the horizon for America right now, and turn it into, this is what it's doing here locally, like, places in Brevard County, in Indiantown. You were talking about the legislation earlier.
That's right.
With Representative Harrell, and I have to tell you, I worked with her in Tallahassee on legislation when I was with Mothers Against Drunk Driving as well.
Okay.
And she is a very good advocate of the people, and I'm glad to have known and worked with her. Don't always agree with her on everything, but I don't agree with myself on everything all the time.
That's exactly right. That's what it's about.
But anyway, there was some legislation that came out of Brevard County through Representative Randy Fine. And it seems that there was a person, if you want to call him that, by the name of Kenny Johnson in Melbourne, Brevard County, that worked at the Palm Bay school system. Well, he was a coach for one of the sports at the high school, and he also taught there. And he was caught texting his genitalia to a couple of students.
Oh my gosh.
And the school district, when they found out, didn't include law enforcement in any of this. And it kind of just went away, and so did Kenny. They just kind of got rid of Kenny. Well, Kenny now is the vice mayor of Palm Bay.
Good grief.
Oh, I know. It's ridiculous. And State Representative Randy Fine has legislation now that was signed by Governor Ron DeSantis that requires the school districts to include Leo in any type of a situation like this. There was something.
Thank goodness. I mean, that should not be brushed under the rug by any means.
No, and you really don't want to get too close to people like this.
No.
I brought a picture so people could see what Kenny actually looks like. He actually also has an arrest record, Kenny. And there's an old adage I remember that says, if you lie with the dogs, you're going to get fleas. And the reason I'm telling you this is that, Mr. Kenny is good friends with another friend of ours back down here by the name of Anthony Dowling, who is, yes, the sitting councilman in Indiantown.
Anthony's name's coming up a lot today, interestingly. Huh?
Well, it's going to get even deeper on this, because when we go back to the last election cycle and you look at the connections that took place on some really slimy politics that were put forward, we connected the dots on it. Now, there's a cousin to Johnson whose name is Robert Burns. Robert Burns being the cousin of this dog over here that's already been in jail and has now caused legislation to take place, and is friends with Anthony Dowling. Well, he's accused of 5 different rapes while he served in the military in South Korea. I've seen the press conferences from the women with Representative Randy Fine. This is not being made up. This is all open source that anybody can find. Okay. And he was discharged from the Army dishonorably for embezzlement in the end. Now, he started attack ads on a candidate in the village council race by the name of Guy Parker. And Guy was running against Guyton Stone, who is a city councilman right now. Well, as it turns out, the voter registration list, which candidates can request from the SOE, understanding that it's governed by statute, and you sign right there, and it tells you the statute, how you have to use it. Well, Robert Burns got a hold of that somehow. Well, he got a hold of it through Janet Hernandez. Janet and Guyton conveniently hired through Anthony Robert Burns to do the dirty work in the campaign, And the list got put online by Robert Burns, which is a state crime. So this is where a lot of ethics investigations came into play. And that's why we say it's important to understand who you're standing alongside when you know, people are going to say this is just another racist attack. I can tell you that's already on Facebook somewhere. I am a racist. Are you hearing this guy? He is a racist. He's a white supremacist. And I'm not looking at the color of these people's skin. I'm looking at the content of their character.
Right.
And if you were yellow, green, purple, or orange, and you were doing those things, I would be doing the same thing at this microphone. I would be calling you out. And there's a lot of this type of mentality that's permeated the Stewart Commission as well. Oh, I can't wait until Indiantown calms down, because there's other places I'd love to spend more time talking
about. Martin. It's expanding.
But Indiantown right now is a hotbed, and you have people that are doing things that are very unethical. Very un-American.
And we covered a lot of that before when you were on the show during election time. And it's absolutely appalling. And it was shocking that we had these outside influences all the way from Brevard County influencing Indiantown's elections.
Well, and not only that, there was a developer in Indiantown that was arrested by the name of Brian West, and he ties back in with this whole cabal in Palm Bay. He was found out because he also had land interest in the Melbourne area. The FBI investigation that was going on in Melbourne, that's how we learned more about what was going on in Palm Bay, because Brian West was living in Indiantown when he was arrested.
Okay.
So, I mean, it opened
pretty strong
up a
connections.
whole can of worms here, and they're, boy, I wouldn't even fish with these worms.
Oh, couple comments here off of Facebook. Diane Lewis said, abolish the village. And Amy Pritchard, good to have you tune in. Appreciate it. She said, not including an LEO is like the Promise program in Broward County. That superintendent is responsible for not reporting on the Parkland shooter. And then she also, as we were talking about our Brevard connections, another Robert Runcie. So,
yeah.
Been on there. This is kind of what precipitated talk about. Be aware what is going on in your own backyard. And I love that Mr. Martin's going to be coming on and bringing how socialism can, until it impacts you personally, until it's in your backyard, people just, they're so busy with their life. It's somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
But when it becomes your problem, then all of a sudden people wake up. So it's good to have some people in the community that talk about Martin to make sure we know what is going on. And you're right, there's always something in every corner of the county. Indiantown's been absolutely shocking to me how this new incorporation has rolled out and what's happened in this very young council.
Short period
yes,
of time.
A very short
There's
period
some
of time.
good things that have happened and have come from this. I mean, the water plant, Lord willing, will eventually get fixed where it was going to be a bigger problem had the municipality not taken it over. Now it's just a bigger problem because the municipality took it over. But, there are some good things that have come from this. There have been opportunities and dialogues and things that have happened for the betterment of the community. I just hope that we can get a little bit more mature council in there that's managing this thing, because there's another negotiation again coming up with FPL in less than 18 months to talk about how much ad valorem they don't want to pay on that yard. And should they decide they want to go to another county, pick their stuff up and go, there's nothing, they're not obligated to the village to stay there. And when you have people with these attitudes, like you've heard them say today, that's the kind of negotiation. That's the way they come to the table. That's the way they represent Indiantown. And there's no need for it. There's too many good, mature people out there that can handle this in a much better way.
And hopefully we will see, a really good election coming up. It's going to be in 2022, the next Indiantown Council election. So,
sure is.
But is that for 2 or 3 seats? Do you know?
3 seats.
3 seats.
Susan Gibbs Thomas is up for re-election as well. So we have to make sure we get a lot of support behind her.
Right.
It's going to be interesting. I'm half tempted to reach back out to Mary Lynn. I know we said on a show a few months back, hey, if you're listening, Mary Lynn, Indiantown is a real big problem for this county because the opposition is getting a real strong concrete footing put in place out there. And all you have to do is just take the time to look at what's going on, and it's going to metastasize. Now there's a call for. And I'm not sure which side I actually fall on this, and it doesn't matter what I think about it, but the village council is asking the school board now to bring buses out, a depot to Indiantown, because of the of time it takes to evacuate the children from the school, waiting for a bus to get there should there be an emergency or a lockdown or something. So valid concern on that one. But again, you go back and you listen to the interview that Janet did. It's we're owed, we've been neglected, you owe us. And I'm thinking, what about Hope Sound? You try to come down US 1 at certain times of the day from
Right.
where the bus depot is in Stewart, and go ahead, try to get to North Jensen or something and see if it doesn't take 45 minutes to.
That's right.
So should each one of those towns have their own bus depot too? Because see, that's what I'm saying. There's this idea of entitlement, that we are entitled because we are.
Right.
And that entitlement kind of mentality is immature, it's un-American, and it's just not going to work anymore. I think people are waking up to it, I hope.
You just said it absolutely correct. And that isn't the entitlement attitude that's happening there. And, even when Howard Brown and your mayor went down to the county commission meeting, that was completely an entitlement speech in my opinion as well. The county did not owe them. And,
I know. It's like they're the only ones out there and you owe us because we're minority.
Right.
I don't get the entitlement aspect to it.
No.
This is there are so many other places. There's 41 countries in this world right now that are enslaving people, and we're talking about white man bad in America.
Right.
This is the craziest thing that I have ever seen in
After
my
so many
life.
great strides, we've just had a Black president for 8 years.
I know.
We've made so many strides in this country, and yet
it's crazy. Well, you look at the diversity of the village council itself. You have three blacks. You have one Hispanic and one white. You have 3 women.
right.
Okay.
Right.
It is got to. I'm sorry. We should have elected an Asian somewhere along in there. But I mean, really,
Right.
you couldn't get much more diverse unless somebody comes out as transsexual or gay on this thing. It's incredible. So, and then they still sit there and say that we're enslaved. You're holding us down. We're entitled. We need. We want. You owe us. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
No, I don't either. There's so much opportunity to be had in Indiantown if just using Indiantown's
There is.
own resources.
There is.
You don't need to have your hand out, to the county in this case.
Well, they're getting ready, Casey, to approve development out there for another 2,000 to 3,000 heads. The Garcia Group is an 850 unit development of regional impact that they're looking at putting in. And, they said they're going to be great neighbors, but they came in and burned down an eagle's nest. They were 2 weeks burning off a field in the middle of pollen season while all the seniors, and myself included, I'm putting myself in the senior class anymore, the way things have been going for me. It's been my senior cutover year, I think. But, look, 850 more homes. They're going to sell, on average, everything that's going to be put up out there to sell to make any money is going to have to start at $300,000.
Right.
Easy.
Right.
And that's on the low end to go up to probably 5. So you're going to be in the middle of $300,000 to $500,000 homes, which is not the median value of the homes in Indiantown. And I'm not sure, with a community that 41% of the population is considered low income, it's going to put a whole different class of citizen in the village that is going to come in large number and be voting blocks. I just hope they don't come in from California and New York
Right.
and help facilitate
Right.
these tantrums that are going. An excellent opportunity to try and regain some in Indiantown.
And Eric, you've been sounding this horn here the last several shows at least, but about gentrification here of Indiantown. And people are not going to, they want to buy a home, maybe for their kids or what have you, and they can't afford it.
They don't understand I'm on their side.
Right.
And there are
Right.
ways to get things done without a government, like we did at the YMCA.
Right.
There are ways
Right.
to do things, but it takes a community to be a community. It can't be a community doing for their neighbor. The neighbors have to be part of the community too.
That's right.
And there has to be some give back. Everything's reciprocal. And that's what's really cool about Indiantown is, you need something, you can ask and somebody's going to be there. And there's nobody keeping a list.
Amy's brought up something here on Facebook. I think she's talking about Janet Hernandez. She said, and she wants teachers to be hired from Mexico. And she said, what about hiring them here? Is that something that is coming up at the council meeting?
I hadn't heard that.
Okay.
I hadn't heard those comments. I wouldn't put it past them.
Right.
You know, they think they're sitting in Congress somewhere,
Well,
which
and
is a mess right now too.
why is the council deciding what teachers are being hired? I mean,
I don't know.
I
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. They really don't understand what their positions are for, and they don't know how to use them. It's back to the mentality. They're applying the office that they hold to the mentality that they have,
right.
and the outcomes are what the outcomes are.
And let's step back here as you're talking about that, because it is a very young council, and it does appear they have a lot to learn. What about the property rights in Indiantown? I know that was a discussion we had previously. I think Scott Watson was in the studio that day. We were talking about how they were legislating away property rights. What's come of that?
I'm not going to put words in Scott's mouth, but I will tell you that I know Scott fought to get his rights back.
Right.
The changes that he felt they made that impeded upon him,
Mm-hmm.
he worked to get those changed. Now, I also know from the shows that we did with Scott, when Scott was in studio with us, Scott did say that overall there were a lot of property rights that were taken away. Now, if everyone was expecting Scott to fight for everyone's property rights in that, I think they were wrong in expecting that of anyone.
Right.
And I'm not sure, that anything much more has been done. You'll see it coming up. There's a gentleman by the name of J.P. Pasquale who has sent us, which, by the way, we have a letters to the editor section now.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
so anybody can contribute, even if it's once.
Even just once. We don't limit you to 250 words, and you don't have to speak directly to the editor either. You can write a letter if you want your voice heard. We just call it letters to the editor, but and it's all on talkaboutmartin.com. You can find it. But anyway, he had sent a letter in, and there's an area off of Famell Avenue in Indiantown that has a micro hammock in it that is a micro environmental oak hammock that is just old stuff in there. And it is a very unique part of the environment. Well, someone owns it. Someone has the right to develop it, but they're looking at stacking single families in between what is a very rural, it doesn't fit with the keeping and character of the homes around it. So they're almost trying to develop on top of everybody to push everyone out.
Okay.
In a sense, the property rights were really taken away, especially when you have to follow certain ANSI standards when you prune your trees. Why should I have to follow an international code and standard for cutting a limb off of my tree at home? And if I want to cut my date palms so they're up like this and not out like that, well, they can fine you if you don't do it right now. And you can only cut down certain types of trees. Other trees you can't cut down.
I mean,
in your yard.
That doesn't even, you can't believe that there's legislation being passed that prohibits you
land
on how
development regulations. They're in their LDRs.
And people don't realize it, I don't think, until they actually go and prune a tree. And I don't know who the prune police are out there, who's going to be checking in.
Or until an inspector shows up and doesn't contact you and leaves you a letter at your door that you never get, and you have now been charged with things that you have to fix on your property, but no one contacts you and tells you, and you start to accumulate tens of thousands of dollars of fines.
Absolutely.
It's a young village, it's a young municipality, but you're supposed to have a senior manager in there that's, according to his resume, just the cut of the cloth and should know everything that's going on.
Right.
So, again, I say Howard Brown is a miserable manager because he was smack dab in the middle of an FBI investigation in Opelika. Nothing came out of it. He wasn't indicted. So you're running as assistant city manager during an investigation for 3 years on corruption, and you don't know anything about it. You're a lousy manager.
Right. Yeah, well,
either that or you were complicit. There's no in between on that one. You're either a lousy manager or you were complicit. I'll give you lousy manager because I've seen what he's doing in Indiantown. He's a lousy manager.
And there's been a lot of people that have been outspoken about his management style. Again, I know that there was people that were, they were picketing at the council meetings. Mm-hmm. Has anything come of that? Or the council?
Well, you heard Miss Janet in her clip, any attack on our village manager is an attack on this council. So all of a sudden you're racist if you attack him for, what seem to be facts.
That's where it's so important to know who you're voting for the council. So when these elections come up again, beginning next year in 2022, you need a council who are leaders, not followers. And that manager works for them.
Gone. We get 3 seats up there. Howard Brown is gone. He just might as well put his letter of resignation in and go the other way.
Start going.
Yeah.
Amy said, Janet Hernandez said the issue about hiring teachers from Mexico was at a joint meeting at the county. And Amy also bringing up something here that's going on in the city of Stewart, the Costco on Canner, 400 apartments, 3 retail stores next to a high school, and 8 wetlands are destroyed. I know that's been a really big issue here in the city as well.
Yeah.
Pro and con. There's on either side of it, but the city has approved Costco going in there, and that's by the Martin County High School.
Yeah, everyone has property rights, and that's why these zoning meetings and the land development regulations are. If you say, look, I don't want this type of use in this area, I don't think it fits as a citizen, neighbor, whoever I am next to a high school, don't change that zoning. It can't do that. Well, someone changed the zoning on that.
Right.
And someone now has the property rights because the zoning says they can build on it. You cannot keep people from building on things. It's just not right. Now, you can make it miserable enough for them that they don't want to build there or too expensive for them to build there. But it's hard to come down on the side of this when everyone wants to get upset after the fact. It's always after the fact and blame the government. Well, if you don't participate in the process that you're telling them to use to get things done, and then you want to complain about it, it's too late.
Right.
It's too late. We need to whittle back a lot of this stuff. And people really do at some level watch 15, 20 minutes of a meeting, do something to get yourself at least listening to what and for you.
Right. Right.
You have to be involved. The biggest part, there's more of us than there are of them. And when we can come together on common mission and common goal, e pluribus unum from many one, and get back to the basic values of the Bill of Rights and American constitutionalism, we all have something we can agree on. We can march this army forward, and we can do it without a stick or a torch. We can do it with ideas and get back to what we know is right.
Which is what talkaboutmartin.com is about. It is getting that information out there and trying to bring people together. Information is power. And you're absolutely right with the Costco location and really any of these developments that are going on. If the property is zoned, and honestly, commissioners, their hands are tied. If it's already been zoned, it's, unless you want to have them all be sued, and
they have to now make sure that the developer meets the specifications of what the code that everyone agreed upon said had to be done. And they're no more than central bureaucratic overseers. They're administrators.
Right.
The system around them has gotten out of control.
Right.
The people are no longer in control of the process, even at a local level. And we still have something to hang on to in Indiantown. I still think we can take that thing back. It's a tiger, but we're hanging on to the tail.
You are absolutely right. It is a tiger. It's a really good analogy. And Indiantown is just growing, and there is still plenty of time to right the ship. And really being out there and doing what you're doing and other folks are doing out in Indiantown. Tony Z's out there all the time talking with different folks and doing interviews. It's so important. If we don't get the word out, then again, until that Tractor Supply is built, nobody thinks anything of it.
Yep.
It's just, and all of a sudden, once it's been approved, and the horse is left stable at that point, as they say.
Don't forget, too, we have people like Tom Campini with Friends and Neighbors that are out there.
Yes.
Barbara's taken a little bit of a hiatus with her
God bless her, yes.
Her Martin County Currents.
Yes.
I can see her getting more involved in the days to come.
Yes.
But there are people out there that if you don't like the way we approach the matters that are also factual, they use a little bit more flowery and softer language when they're describing what's going on. We cut the veneer off of it and cut right to the chase. We don't have time to deal with the poppycock in between.
Yeah, sugar coated and worry about hurting somebody's plans or feelings. Amy Pritchett says, why have a comp plan? Well, the comp plan is your basis for your zoning I mean, that's the
It's your
basis for your,
comprehensive plan. This is the plan that we're going to comprehensively put together to guide us on what we're doing. We're all going to come together under
now in the future.
consensus, and we're going to have a consensus meeting with a charrette. We're going to have a wonderful little, it's supposed to be the Constitution for the county.
Right.
I think it's so convoluted that you couldn't ask most people, even that are elected, that have to serve under it, what's in it.
So, Eric, we're going to have our next show. It's going to be the last Wednesday in August, August 25th. And we're already getting ready for this show. It's going to be a really good one.
I'm looking forward to it.
I am as well. There's a site, unusualwhales.com. The person behind this site has put together a congressional tracker of stock purchases selling from our congressional elected representatives, Senate, House Representatives. And it's amazing how well some of them are doing. We're going to be looking into our Florida legislative people here. Brian Mast, actually, it's what caught my attention was Brian Mast's name was right at the top of the tweet because he sits on the infrastructure committee, has some infrastructure stocks that are impacted by the infrastructure bill that Biden's putting out, and the stock is returning like 35%, doing really well. So we're gonna look at those closer though, and it's not just Representative Mast. It happens on the Democratic side, happens on the Republican side, and we're gonna really dig into that in August. So
yeah, it'll be good to look at. I've never liked this insider trading that they have. They make laws that they know are going to pass, that are going to affect
they're writing the laws,
companies and sectors and industries, and then all of a sudden, just before it gets passed and the whole world finds out, oh, lo and behold, look at the options they took on that, or look at the number of shares her husband bought on that, or
they report it, but it's 30 days late before the public ever sees what they're purchasing. And also their staffers. There is no tracking of their staffers, but don't tell me they're not telling their staffers, hey, you got to get in on this stock. So this insider trading, that's exactly what it is in Congress. Everywhere else it's illegal, but not on the Hill.
Well,
so
yeah. Well, we're racist.
We're that's right, being racist. So we're really going to talk about that. And again, that's Unusual Whales. I've spoken with the person behind that website. They don't do interviews, but they said please use the information I'm providing. That's what it's out there for. The New York Post and the New York Times have been covering some of the trades that they've uncovered. So I think this is something that's just starting to hit the public news, and it's something that our elected officials should be accountable for. Why should they be any different from you or I? We can't inside trade.
Yeah. And it should upset you if you're a citizen of the United States and you're an American. That should upset you.
Should you upset you a lot? And
yes.
Talk to Martha Stewart about going to jail because she had sold some stock and they accused her of insider trading. And there's more to that story. But Ray's telling me we're out of time. That's going to be August 25 when you come back. Next week, I'm going to have Senator Harrell and Marsha Powers in the studio and talking about great legislative updates. And we will see you then. Have a great one. Thanks, Eric.
Yep.
Talk about Martin.
Bye.